I'm joined now by Garrett Armfield, who picked up a round one RNC win this past Saturday at Shamrock FC's latest event. Garrett, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. I appreciate your time. And you were talking a little bit here before we went live, and you were telling me that what you were game planning, what you were prepping right before the fight is what actually transpired inside the cage, and you got that RNC win, man. How gratifying is that to know that, this is what you're doing, getting ready to go in there, and you execute it in the first round?
It's just very gratifying. I mean, that's actually not the first time it's happened before with the same coaches. Last time they courted me as well, it was the same techniques that we went over. Actually ended up going to the fight and winning by rear naked choke in the first round again. And so it's awesome to be able to have faith in your coaches and to know that they know what they're talking about. Not that I would ever doubt that, but it's nice that reinforces that I can go out there and completely, execute the techniques on my opponent and walk away with the victory without getting any damage. So a lot of respect, a lot of props go out to my coaches. Nate Stambursky and Gabe Boak for preparing me and, letting me pick their brain before the fight. Because, right whenever when it did go to the ground and I could hear what my coaches were saying, it was do what, they're saying things that we were talking about in the back. So it was very easy to kind of translate that over.
Yeah, no doubt. Hopping on a plane here shortly, going back to Florida. You're training at Sanford MMA now. Tell me, I guess, how that balance is like now, because you had your old coaches in Missouri there cornering you. So how does that work now as far as, switching camps or being able to have them corner you this past fight?
Yeah, so I've been at Sanford MMA for about 2 years now. And so I actually FaceTime one of my coaches probably about every day after practice. And then my other coach probably about once a week. So I don't know, we're always all on the same page, and they know me a little bit more personally. My coach is from back home in Missouri, and so I always like them having come up because they kind of know what to say to me, how to keep me calm, and it's good. It's awesome because I get techniques from Sanford MMA, which is the best gym in the world, in my opinion. And then I also can come back up to Missouri and get technique from my coaches down in Springfield. And it's the best jiu-jitsu I've seen in the Midwest. So I love having it.
Yeah, no worries. I can just edit anything out you need, man.
You're good.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wanted to ask you, too, because you were one of those rare fighters that actually had a fight during the pandemic, so you were lucky in that regard. It was October of 2020. You got the round one KO win at CFFC. How is it like for you now fighting with fans back in the arena? Is that exciting? Are you one of those fighters that kind of feed off of the energy of the arena?
Yeah, I like the crowd. I did not like fighting without a crowd. So whenever I did fight, it wasn't completely no crowd. It was 25% capacity, and so there's only 100 people in attendance. And when I did fight for them, I was the out of town guy that they brought in to fight a local guy. And so it was whenever I remember they called my name, nobody said a thing. And then whenever they called the other guy's name, everybody was cheering. And then after I won, I was used to having a crowd, and up until that point, all my fights have been in Missouri, where I was able to have supporters come. And so I think the craziest part was after I got the finish, and it was dead silent in there. You could hear a pen drop. And so yeah, it was definitely interesting. I definitely feed off the crowd though. It's just, there's your support system, and when they have them behind you, you feel like you can take on the world.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's talk about this specific fight, the Shamrock 329 one this past Saturday. What was your specific game plan going in? You were talking about drilling the RNC on the ground, and that's what happened. But you said to me before that you like stand-up. You're a striker, I guess, at heart. So, was that kind of what you were thinking about doing, or did you feel like your best course to victory was on the ground in this fight?
I felt damage-wise to keep myself safe and ready to fight again. Obviously, the smoothest part would be to go to the ground where you can control what they're throwing and they're not throwing crazy punches at you. But in my head, before I game plan my fights, I'm always envisioning myself striking. I've been having boxing matches since I was 8 years old, kickboxing matches since I was 8 years old. And so it's always natural for me to view it as more of a striking match more than a ground. And so, but the thing is I'm not afraid to go to the ground as well. I like going to the ground too. It's just not always plan A. But before going into this fight, I kind of felt as if that I had the advantage everywhere, just because I work my butt off down at Sanford MMA, and I feel like I'm always evolving, always growing. But like, I wouldn't be able to say this if I didn't work hard. Like if I missed half the practice throughout the week, then I wouldn't sit there and be like, oh, I have the advantage. I believe that hard work equals success, and obviously there's a lot of other X factors as well. But I mean, if you can keep that one thing consistent, is how much time you spend on the mat, then you should be confident going into every fight, even if the guy has more experience than you, or if the guy may be better than you. You think in like a certain area. I mean, it's, any given night you can go up there and outclass somebody. So I just think, the formula is hard work, and that's like what they really preach down at Sanford. It's a very like teamwork atmosphere, very hardworking atmosphere, and like we pick each other up. We don't put each other down. So.
What feels better, knocking someone out or choking someone out?
Shoosh. They both feel pretty good. I'm gonna be honest, like it wasn't any disrespect to like my opponent at all, but I kind of didn't want to let go of the submission whenever he tapped. It was like a sadistic thing. I don't know. It kind of feels good, but the knocking out is probably definitely like my favorite feeling. It's just like a oof.
Okay, so if you had your choice, you'll be knocking guys out on the feet here moving forward.
Yeah, that's definitely the choice. Is always stand up first and then ground if I have to. But yeah.
Where do you feel you've evolved the most since making the transition to Sanford?
My wrestling abilities for sure. So I've gotten an incredible amount of advice in all areas of the fight game, but the MMA wrestling, it's my old gym. Nothing was bad about the wrestling whatsoever. They had great wrestling, but it was mostly jiu-jitsu and striking. A big thing about training on to Sanford MMA is like adding in the wrestling and adding in the transitions from going to the striking to the grappling. So like a big way I explain it to people is that before I moved down to Florida and started training there, I was a kickboxer that had jiu-jitsu. And so now it's more like, oh, I'm a mixed martial artist. It's because it's always like the in-betweens, like the little transitions where you can always get the advantage. So I just think the wrestling part of it, I used to hate getting like a wrestling stance, but now I think it's comfortable. I know it's crazy like how your body evolves and gets used to chaos in the room. So definitely the wrestling.
Who are some of your main partners that you typically train with the most at Sanford?
My main partners are usually Troy Worthen, who's a fighter for ONE FC. Dustin Lampros, who just goes on the Ultimate Fighter. And then like I always get advice from like Herbert Burns, Jared Gordon, just a lot of high level guys constantly around me. Sean Soriano for one, he's pretty much like my mentor down there. He's always kind of like from day one, after I kind of proved myself a little bit, he kind of took me under his wing and always, he holds mitts for me and helps me with my striking. And so I get a lot of advice from a lot of guys. And what the cool part about having the gym too is that there's always new, like, I guess, popular fighters coming in to go out there for camp. So as they come in, you take technique, one or two of them for each of them. Next thing you know, you have like a whole, sheet of techniques out of all different styles.
I've been interviewing Brendan Allen for years,
yeah.
And he's down there, obviously different weight class than you. But what is he like to have around the gym?
He's a goofball for sure. You're like, if you look up the definition of troll, it would probably be his picture in the dictionary. Yeah, and especially because like he's like a middleweight, I'm a bantamweight, kind of always like pick on each other, and yeah, it's always like good spirited though. He's a funny guy, and he's always in a good mood too. He never takes the sport way too serious. He can crack jokes during training, and it's becomes more like a family atmosphere at that point. So he's been training down there for probably like a year now. So I've been I really like having him around. And he's very good and always shows great technique too. If you ever have a question, he's always there to help.
Yeah, no doubt. He's someone to really keep your eyes on here moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
I got to ask you too about Michael Chandler. Obviously, that's where he's at now as well. Do you get a chance to work with him much? I know he's at lightweight, but you guys are relatively, I guess, the same size, right? Like, do you work with him much?
Yeah, I do. Whenever he's in camp, he usually has his guys that he spars with, obviously, because it's going to be people that suit his next opponents. But he does help with the wrestling Wednesday and with technique always, and he's so knowledgeable. And like his wrestling, I feel like my like the way he scrambles is something that I want to take with me as I move forward in this game. Is that, and for one, like his gas tank and just like his mentality about winning and being a fighter. There's no slacking off around him. If you slack off once, he calls you out and he lets everybody know. And so he's definitely a leader on the team, and he keeps things in line, and he keeps people inspired. He's from a small town, or he's from a town that's like 20 minutes from me, a small little Missouri town. So that was really cool. Like I grew up watching him, like fanboying over him, and then whenever I came down and met him, I was like, oh, cool. He's just like a normal person, just like everybody else, and that like he's a really nice guy. And even you see these guys on TV, they're people too, and he's definitely like had like a positive like influence all my life before I even knew him, just because I wanted to be where he was at. And to be honest with you, I want to be that for somebody as well. So like any younger fighters, any younger kids growing up watching the sport that may keep their eye on the regional scene, I hope I can be that inspiration to them, that way that a lot of these guys I train with were to me and still are to me.
Yeah, very well said. Did you get a chance to talk to him after that Oliveira fight? He was so close to getting the finish, man. I actually picked him in the first round to win via TKO, and he almost had it. Did you speak to him after that?
No, I think he's back home in Tennessee at the moment. And then actually, like right around his fight, I was actually out of the gym for about a week because I was in a car wreck and had a concussion. And so car wreck. So I actually haven't been able to see him, but I hope he's in good spirits, and I hope he's ready to get back down here and train. I like having him around.
Fair, for sure. So no any other injuries outside of the concussion from that car wreck? You're obviously good otherwise?
Yeah, no, I'm all good. It was a mild concussion, but I'm safe. I'm still healthy. That was walked away with, like not even a scratch, just a minor concussion, which obviously being in the sport, we want to protect our heads. So I did take like 6 weeks off of sparring just to, ensure that everything was healthy and everything checked out before I went back to it.
Gotcha. Tell me what that weight cut for you is to 135. How big do you get?
Oh, I don't know. I walk around lighter for the weight class, to be honest. I walk around at like between 150 and 155 pounds. And then so the weight cuts are super easy. I was actually a little bit sick going into fight week, and I luckily enough cleared up before the fight. But I was holding on to a little bit too much water, and so I was like 3 days out, and I still had like 15 pounds to lose. I was still at 150. So a little bit panic set in, because usually like whenever I start dropping out the carbs, my weight just drops right away. But it went smooth. I got my nutritionist. His name's Wes Osborne, and he's out of Supplement Superstore. He's an extremely knowledgeable guy. He's been helping me for about like 5 years now with my weight cuts, and I've never missed weight. And I never plan on it. But I like where I'm at 135, even though I'm not the biggest 135er. I feel like my speed definitely gets the advantage, and a lot of these guys, they can't really keep up with my speed.
Yeah, okay. Well, exciting to see what's next for you here at 135 pounds, man. I do want to just get your thoughts on what you hope is next. I mean, you're 6-2 now as a pro. I got to imagine the goal is to maybe, Dana White's Contender Series or straight into the UFC or Bellator. Like, what are you hoping happens here as 2021 unfolds?
I used to put like I used to kind of like I obviously have goals of being in the UFC and getting there. But I used to always kind of draw up my plans like, oh, I want to be this by this time in my life, and I want to be signed to the Contender Series. But before this fight, I actually dropped my last fight, and it was a really good fight. Very good chance to watch it. It was like a bloodbath first round, and then he actually came back, and I made a mistake, and he capitalized on a submission. But with that being said, I feel like I have a lot to learn, and I'm in no rush to get to the UFC. I'm 8 fights into a 40-fight career. So I used to rush myself, and I wanted to be the young guy in the UFC, but I don't care if it takes me 2-3 more years. Whenever my time comes, I'll be ready, and I'll be able to step up. And, from my point of view, the longer I spend outside the UFC, the worse it gets for everybody inside the UFC. So I want to stay out of it for a little bit and keep getting better, because I get better every day. And, there's no rush. When I get there, I want to stay there. I don't want to get signed and then get cut. I'm trying to make some money and change my life, So, yeah, but I mean, if Contender Series opportunity popped up, I would love to take that as well. I mean, I've got a great manager in Jason House at Iridium Sports. So we've been game planning stuff a little bit, and he just kind of reminds me not to rush it, and I have faith in him. Yeah, again, like I'm very lucky to be able to have my management. Like I said, he's got a champion underneath his belt now, and so I got even more faith. Not that I didn't before, but so when I talk to him and he says, "Hey, let's continue to take fights and can get more cage experience before we try to make the jump up," then I fully believe in it. Like I said, it's a 40-fight career, not a 15-fight career, so I'm in no rush right now. I got the best years ahead of me, and so whenever the call is ready, I know I'll be ready. But I'm not going out begging to get the shot that I haven't deserved yet. I know I'm a big believer that you deserve your shot in the UFC, and I will get there by keep getting wins, keep racking up finishes. I'm 6 wins now with 6 finishes. And so I hope I'm starting to get, some looks from big and order. But if not, I'll keep doing it. I love fighting. The sport's not just about money for me or anything like that. I would just love the something since I was a kid, and it feels natural for me. So it just makes me happy to do that. So, doesn't matter what the platform is. I'm always there ready to show up and bang it out. And then, really lucky with my management. But yeah, if you guys want to continue to follow me, follow my fight, you could follow me on Instagram, and Twitter. It's Garrett Armfield 135, and I post regularly, so you guys can keep up with it.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I love the mindset. I think you're definitely on the right track to some big things, man. Appreciate the time, and thank you for doing this interview with me here, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon, my man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.